Good afternoon and welcome to the fourth Diagnostic Leadership Summit. We are now heading into the panel discussion on digitization accelerating the pace of innovation in futuristic diagnostic sector. We are delighted to welcome Dr. Leena Apicatla, Head of Labs, HCG Hospital, who will be the session moderator for the day. Welcome, ma'am. Dr. Veena Nakra, Principal Director, Lab Management and Technical Excellence, Dr. Lal Path Labs. Welcome, ma'am. Dr. Rahul Bhargav, Hematologist, Principal Director, Fortis Healthcare. Welcome, sir.
Thank you.
Dr. Prerna Agrawal, Technical Operations Manager, Apollo Diagnostics. Welcome, ma'am. Suraj Krishnan, Deputy General Manager, Medall Healthcare. Welcome, sir. And Dr. Amit Agrawal, General Manager, Procurement, Spice Healthcare Private Limited. Welcome, sir. I now hand over the session to Dr. Leena to take the discussion forward. Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you so much. Good afternoon, everyone. It's indeed an honor to moderate this session on digitization and IoT for accelerating the pace of innovation in the diagnostic sector with all the esteemed panelists of today. Warm welcome to everyone. Laboratory diagnosis has entered the digital era, and we often state, being in the lab diagnostic sector, that 70 to 75% of medical decisions are driven by diagnostic testing. So, as we enter the era of precision medicine, therapeutics, different IoT devices, and AI, the importance of the role of diagnostic sector in medicine will only continue to grow. And the earlier we detect a medical condition, the better is the outcome for that patient. So, as we can all understand, there is no limit to technology anymore, but the only limitation would be probably to, for us human beings, to effectively absorb all the information which is available in the form of data these days. So, the one thing is that technology will not stand still waiting for all of us to catch up. So, definitely, we all need to be geared up for what is coming, and this is for us the right time to examine what exactly is the future of diagnostics going to be. To enlighten us on the role of digitization and IoT, we have panelists with us today who have both knowledge and experience in this area. So, over to the panel discussion, and we will be starting with Dr. Prerna. Dr. Prerna, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Dr. Leena. Thank you so much.
So, Dr. Prerna, I would want to start off with, what do you see the role of digitization in lab operations? What
So,
would be the future of the sector be?
so the future lies in automations and artificial intelligence. So presently, if we have to divide the era which is presently going on, is we use LIMS. So LIMS forms the basis of all the labs. That is the laboratory information management system. So through LIMS, we are actually entering the era where we'll be using automation and artificial intelligence in the system. So automation, as we are aware now, is through the entire everything from the sample receipt to the time the report has been delivered to the patient. Everything, nothing will be manual so far. Also, through the data analysis and everything with the logarithm algorithm to be put in the system, quality will also be in check. And in moving forward in the long term, the artificial intelligence will come into picture, where we'll examine all the demographics, populations, age wise, and all the data must be analyzed, and based on that we can order tests, reflex tests can be booked, and based on those reference ranges, preventive measures can be taken. So that would be the future in labs operations.
Yeah, sure. So, I think we will be moving on to the next panelist to enlighten us further on the role of digitization in histopathology, particularly, and other areas of the laboratory. Dr.
So,
Reena? Uh, Dr. Reed, yeah.
This kind of discussion. The whole digitization and IoT, artificial intelligence, this has been over the last 2 years. COVID-19 actually, kind of many, kind of conventional ways to live. And indeed, it was a crisis which was a catalyst for a higher digital adoption. About 70% rise in the adoption of digital solutions, and 46% of these were first-time users of telehealth. These are significant statistics. And beyond that, it is a significant opportunity for us in the diagnostic sector to harness, to bring about a sustained change and development. Diagnostics being the epicenter for innovation, having access to both not only the preventive health models, that is where we will create those, and also in predicting outcomes and driving clinical decisions. Like Dr. Leena already said, 75% of clinical decisions are actually centered around diagnostics. So these are this is a very significant time for all of us. Digital platforms where they predated the pandemic, and today we are having a more regulatory enabled also environment, as well as on the adoption side, both the patients as well as the doctors are willing to adopt this. I would put, like, the thing that we talk about, P4 medicine, where we say participatory, preventive, predictive, and personalized. All this can be leveraged through these new technologies that are coming in. When we talk about participatory medicine, we already see that as a reality in diabetes care, where remote care outside of hospital boundaries is possible because of wearables, because of even insulin delivery pumps, which are connected with the patient glucose monitoring devices. And so we see the whole cycle getting completed in diabetes care. And I think beyond that, it's going to become a very significant opportunity to manage the dual disease burden that India has, not only with infectious, but also non-communicable diseases, to have the patient participate through these wearable devices, through diagnostics, and continuous monitoring, and trending analysis. All this can come together for out of hospital boundary care. And actually, this would help us create much more, healthcare access. Aside from that, I think coming down to the specifics of using digitization in histopathology, as the largest, histopathology processing center, it was natural that we kind of paved the way for adoption of digitization in histopathology. We did that many years back, being the pioneer in bringing, digitization in histopath. The challenges always come in, say, the adoption. Moving from a microscope to a screen is not easy for a pathologist. And I think the key driver is when you start looking at what would be the outcome. And an outcome-centric, approach is what would enable a good adoption and a good change management for the teams when it comes to digital technologies. And I think, like, the technological enablement, digitization, automation, they are affecting all of the industries in profound ways. And healthcare delivery should be no exception. Why should it be? In fact, we are today poised to take this on. Digitization helps. So in histopathology, I'll give you this is one of the use cases, and there are many. And I think, in histopathology, what we were able to drive was not only a remote reporting during, say, COVID times, where, pathologists, even if they do not have access to come to the lab, they were able to report out the slides. So that is just one of the, routine scenarios. But what it also helped us do was allocate slides using the administrative AI tools to say, okay, what kind of cases need to go to what expertise. And it is a great administrative tool to be able to leverage the workflow. Aside from that, it became the base for bringing AI into histopathology. And AI algorithms for reporting of breast cancer markers or panels, especially IHC, where quantitative analysis also becomes very important and very pertinent to patient outcomes and therapy guidelines. So it helped us standardize across. So we were able to use these AI algorithms in histopathology, not only initially as a complement, but later as an add-on, and even as a quality tool. So the reporting of all ER/PR, HER2 panels, quantification of those through AI-enabled algorithms with a second read from the oncopathologist, it adds just a lot of whole new dimension to the reporting and improves and standardized reporting and accuracy. So this was one bit of the AI. We've also now started reporting prostate cancer through AI algorithms with the first read. Gleason prostate carcinoma is like one of the most prominent cancers which is coming aside from breast and cancer in India. And we did see a lot of benefit, especially when it comes to accurate Gleason grading, quantification of the tumor in a tumor mass. All this quantified aspects that AI can bring in histopathology, it adds as a huge aid to the histopathologist. So these were some of the, these are just some of the use cases of clinical AI decisions. Another use case that we have implemented in the laboratory is cumulative reporting and trends of patient data or patient. So rather than have more like a transactional reporting, you have a longitudinal reporting for the patient. They can see the trend of how their markers are going over a period of time. This is, of course, right now only limited to the quantifiable, metrics and markers. But just as an example, a creatinine of 1.2 in isolation may not mean anything. But if you are seeing a creatinine of 1.2 move from a 0.8 to a 1 and 1.2, along with, say, a metric of a weight gain in a patient where you could think of fluid retention, and then you take into in the background some pre-analytical criteria as well as say his previous history records, it all becomes a different scenario indeed. Then it is like, does the patient need to take a clinical consult quickly? And you could actually predict that he could go into failure. You could actually, kind of prompt the patient to go in for some more, tests or go to a physician. So these are some of the things that, can come around, and how we can provide more health equity and health access to patients and actually play a role more in prediction, prevention, and have that wellness model getting created. So as I think, the health sector continues to evolve, it will definitely leverage AI, automation, telemedicine, and e-reporting, cloud computing. But with the integration of these new technologies, health tech organizations will definitely redraw the landscape. Another important aspect, which I would kind of flag, is that while we use AI, AI would not only need to be just smart, it would also need to be what we can say, wise, where we say well governed. The data sets that go into building the AI algorithms, to make sure that there is no what do you call bias that is there, and they are well governed. That will be important. So
Right.
I would leave with that and probably come back for more later.
Yes, I think that's really interesting. that we are into an era wherein we are able to leverage the expertise of the histopathologists to various areas. And like, as you said, I think the experience of implementing it in various locations and the ease of reporting is something which is coming through very well from what you have said. So we'll have more of that for sure. And in the mean, I think I will. We can move on to the next panelist for discussing more on the inventory management and the the hello, am I audible?
Yes.
Yeah.
So
So
now you
I
are.
think yes. Oh, okay, okay. Yeah, I think there's some issue. Yeah. So Mr. Suraj, we would like to hear from you about how the procurement and inventory management would happen, because as we understand, digitization would definitely need a lot of different approach to the traditional inventory management and procurement system. So would you like to talk to our audience about that from your vast experience in this field?
Sure, Doctor. Hello, everyone. A wonderful afternoon to all of you. The last 2-3 years has shown us multiple world-changing moments with COVID coming in. It has shown us the advantage of technology or digitization, whichever way you call it. It has got us closer. It has taught us to continue doing our professional work from any part of the world, but still continuing, to fulfill the demands of the customers. Change, I think, has been there over a long number of years. I still remember studying about, industrial revolution in my school days, and over couple of decades I've been in the logistics and inventory industry for the last 25-30 years, starting from 90s when I was joined as a fresher into the logistics segment. But then it was a new word called logistics at that point of time. We were more known as transporters, warehouse facility managers, and things like that. From there, over the years, as I traversed through different industries from hospitality to healthcare, I've seen a phenomenal change in the way the entire procurement, storing, warehousing, logistics, everything has been bundled into and brought about into a new terminology called the supply chain management. Earlier, when we started, it all used to be manual. We used to have bill books, invoice raised manually, ledgers, everything written manually and kept. So the entire planning, all those activities were a little haphazard, with multiple offices or multiple labs operating. Everything was done manually, so there were a lot of misses. Now with technology coming in, initially we had Tally, and today we have SAP, which is a fully integrated end-to-end process in supply chain. All these have brought about a transformation, an extraordinary transformation into the supply chain management. Today, companies have started realizing that supply chain is a very important wheel in the operation of the entire business. It is not merely just buying, storing, and consuming it. From that, companies, organizations have started to realize that collaborating inventory, shipments, delivery schedules, warehouse managements, advanced planning, forecasting, all these things play a very, very major role in helping the organization to give the output which is required in the challenging times. Right, earlier, products, marketing, distribution processes were all what were given the primary insights in a company. But off late, everybody has started realizing that supply chain also has to be given an equal importance, since it helps in improving the efficiency on productivity. A recent study which I was going through has said that digitizing supply chain can improve your annual growth by 3 to 4%. With artificial intelligence and analysis being brought into every spectrum of the business, we are today able to find out the supply and demand. We are able to get predictive trends of what will be the business in the next couple of months, a real-time visibility on what is the stock in hand, what is in the lab, what is in WIP, precisions around the real-time status of deliveries, forecasting maintenance of the equipments. All these have been able to we are being able to get all those data thanks to all the artificial intelligence which are being incorporated in majority of the organizations. These analyses have also helped us to plan and procure material based on the demand. We have been able to optimize the lead times. We have been able to move towards just-in-time techniques. We have been able to tide over the situation of going stock out or overstocking. And finally, all these together has helped us to improve cash flow and the cash management. It's always said inventory is money, and the digitization has helped us in handling the supply chain in a very systematic and effective way, thus helping faster movement of inventory and quicker turnarounds of the output, which is in turn helping the fund management to a great extent. While fund management is a big thing for any organization, I think we being in the healthcare, more than the fund management, I think we should have our emphasis on the motto of serving the society and the well-being of every customer. As Dr. Prerna was telling, the time between, rather the tap between sample collection, accession, and the delivery of the report is what is going to be crucial for us being in this industry. Now, supply chain plays a major role two ways. One, in getting the sample from the collection point to the lab, as well as arranging for the required reagents or the controls, calibrators, everything what is required for the processing, the analytical part of it, and reporting it back to the customer within the TAT. So with artificial intelligence, we have been able to feed in a lot of data into the system, find out where there have been TAT delays, get processes set in, set new SOPs to see that we eradicate all these issues and ensure that time on time, day in and day out, we give the reports on time without any delay. So the main goal from a diagnostic point of view, if you see, is to serve the ever-growing demand of the customer and to the best of our ability to try and maintain TAT and give the reports on time. So there have been multiple things today. Every software which comes in has been giving us enough data. Equipment manufacturers have started upgrading their softwares, which gives in mission data of processing, what is the time for processing, the usage of kit, the pattern of usage of kits, which in turn helps us to plan what is the lead time required to order based on the pack size, based on the place it comes from. If it's being imported, then what is the lead time we need to have. All these things have become much easier thanks to all the artificial intelligence and the softwares which we have started using in supply chain. And almost all managements have today accepted that they need to invest, even if it is going to be a little on the higher side. They are ready to invest in artificial intelligence for the supply chain process, which in a way is helping them to do business in a much better way. So these are some of the points which from the supply chain I would like to share it with the panel. I'm ready for any further discussions on this.
And Dr. Lena, I think we can't hear you.
Am I audible? Yeah. Am I audible?
Yeah, you're
Yes,
audible.
Dr. Lina.
Yes, we can hear you now.
Yeah, I am facing some sort of a net
In the while you fix the network issue, I would like to add one point
issues.
which comes to
Apologies for.
you rightly put up regarding the procurement and the inventory. The new automation has allowed us with the barcode system. So where you integrate with the software of the vendors and then you
Hello, am
use
I
the
audible
barcode.
again?
So you automatically, the moment this system analyzes that the inventory is reducing and we need to order, the automatic inventory is being placed. So this is there
Yeah.
for inventory, and the automation is playing a big role in this and is helping the operation people also to not having the downtime where the kits are not available or the instrument uh, is having a facing a downtime. So this is quite helpful nowadays.
Not only that, doctor, to add a point to you, the barcode system is helping us to control expiry in a very big way.
Yes, yes, true that.
Manually, when you start feeding and when you have a large inventory in a particular lab, maybe if it's a reference lab, the number of items what we hold is too high, and a person physically fielding, we do get at least 20% of error in the expiry dates, which then becomes a big problem on monitoring the expiry. As you suggested, the barcode reading today has helped us to overcome that challenge in a very, very big way. We have, on a personal experience, we have brought down expiry to almost 2 to 3% of my total procurement. And that's a very big advantage which has happened. At the same time, with the integration of the equipments, we have been able to start planning just in time labs. Hold. The cash flow is much easier for the organization and it can be put to use
Yeah.
for something.
So, I think, Mr. Suraj, what you say is, is really sounds good, because especially for people in lab operations, it is a blessing that if we are able to digitize our inventory management system. Now, the thing is, when we speak of digitization and internet usage, we tend to think of. Hello?
Yeah, go on, doctor. We can hear you.
Yeah. We can hear you, Dr. Lena.
Yeah, so we tend to think of. Uh, Doctor,
I think
hello.
yeah.
Yes, Dr. Lina, we can hear you.
Doctor,
I think we were facing some issues in network from Dr. Lena. Could I request the next panelist to please,
yeah,
start so that we can then
yeah,
come
Doctor,
around?
I'm
Yeah.
audible now. I am
Yes,
facing
Yes.
some connectivity issues. I really apologize to everybody. So, Dr. Bhargav, we would like to hear from you about your experience in implementing digitization, especially in rural areas and in other areas, from your experience. Yeah.
First of all, thank you, Dr. Lina, for having me here. I am the odd one out, probably. I'm a hematologist, okay, MD medicine and DM from AIMS, and I do hematology and bone marrow transplants. What I also do is to establish the low cost transplant centers as well as hematology centers across the rural India. So, India, as we see, is also beyond Delhi, Mumbai, Madras, Chennai, Bangalore, Calcutta, and so on and so forth. And there are large, vast hinterlands in the Indian parts which are devoid of pathologists. Okay, we still have 1 in 65,000, one pathologist over 65,000, and total 5,000 doctors, pathologists registered in Indian Society of Pathology. They can be much more, and the intake is 1,500, and not many people are going towards the rural areas, or what we say as tier 2 or tier 3, even tier 4 cities beyond that. That means many tribal areas are being unserved for. And for a hematologist, the peripheral smear is the gateway for early diagnosis. What all you require is a peripheral smear. I mean, Dr. Reena, you will agree with me that every pathologist who enters into a training want to become a histopathologist. Hardly a few, 0.1% or probably 1% wants to become a hematologist. And that's where our problem. So when we started our clinics in Meerut, Bareilly, Gorakhpur, Maharajganj, Devariya, the biggest problem is without a peripheral smear, without a good pathologist's eyes, you can't make a diagnosis. I might be thinking of 100 of things. So the digitalization came in hereby. We had an opportunity to scan 700 slides on a SIGTuple AI-enabled digital scanner, which takes 5.5 minutes, gives you the clarity of the white blood cells, which can tell you, look, guys, this is leukemia. You need to act upon. So you create a funnel for the rest of the reference labs, Lal Path Lab, SRIL, and so on and so forth, where the flow cytometry, even majority of time we think that the problem is the affordability. No, problem is not affordability. By the time person starts from Maharajganj and reaches to SGPGI Lucknow or to Fortis, they have already spent out their money, which is like 70, 80,000. But if it's sitting in Maharajganj, you say you require a flow cytometry test of 10,000 rupees, he is not going to say no, because that is going to give him the right diagnosis. And that's exactly what we did. We established the scanner on a pilot basis in Gorakhpur, and thanks to SIGTuple who gave us the scanner, and then followed by Cellavision, and then followed by Morphil, whose scanners we have evaluated and found to be very useful for peripheral smears. So out of 700 slides, we have been able to pick up 10 leukemias, which was never been diagnosed, which was just roaming because of pyroxy of unknown origin. And for me, that is what is accessibility. That is much more affordable care, because I can then intervene, give them oral medication. So you see, in Gorakhpur, if you have a high WBC count, it is invariably infection. Until unless that scanner scans it and say, look guys, this is CML. And an oral pop-up pill of costing 2,000 rupees in a month actually saves his life and make him survive for next 20 years. That is accessibility. So digitalization, in my mind, by virtue of getting these scanners which are inbuilt, because when you evaluate the Philips scanner, when you evaluate the rest of the Western world scanners, they come at 1 crore. We want a scanner which can scan the slide in 5 minutes, multiple slides, and which is not very expensive. And that's why these three companies right now have an edge in the country, because they are AI enabled, because even the pathologist who does not know BLAST, the way you have tamed the machine, which is an ongoing process, the way you are taming the machine to tell what is BLAST so that it does not come into a lymphocyte corner, is an ongoing work. So where digitalization is helping in bringing the accessibility to the patients, they are making early diagnosis, and that means they are bringing in more value on the table. So digitalization, in my mind, is a true application of these scanners. And I know many of the AIMS and PGI people have tied up with IITs to build up these scanners and the point of care devices. So I think it's a future is bright. The digitalization is there to stay. What Dr. Reena has said is one part of digitalization. We are working between the intra-lab and telling pathologists that you are specializing into these remote sites to the reference lab, because that's where the quality doctors which are there are sitting in these places. And that is what the country needs. The expertise of these pathologists, even moving away from their country, which is difficult for them, but still getting their expertise to make a correct diagnosis. And that's the true idea of digitalization, digitalizing the whole pathology field. And that is what is exciting me as a clinician to invest more. And that's what we plan, to establish 20 more centers. We have just got the contract from Bihar government. We have also got from Chhattisgarh government to establish these low-cost peripheral smear scanning centers so that you can diagnose malaria. You can diagnose sickle cell. So the cost of sickle cell in the rural, in the tribal areas is like 650 rupees. People come with a crisis, chest pain, body pain. You don't know what is happening. You scan the slide and you say, this guy has sickle cell. It means the treatment becomes faster. Treatment becomes less expensive because the government is playing its part of reducing the out-of-pocket expenditure, which we need to bring it down. And that is how the digitalization as well as the AI is helping us out to build up these networks. I think it's a tremendous part. Future is bright. All of you, as sitting in the labs, are doing a fantastic job of digitalization and AI so as to bring the equality in the knowledge what has been there in this country. Because every person who passes out and he reads the same book has got a different ideation of how to interpret that. But digitalizations, AI is going to equalize that. But one word of caution is you have to tame the AI. You have to teach the AI. AI will evolve over the period of time. AI is artificial intelligence. It cannot replace the human interface. So as we are gung-ho about artificial intelligence as well as digitalization, let's not forget the humans will always remain a part of this ecosystem, driving what is AI to be taught and how it has to be taught.
I think
Absolutely.
that's really brilliantly expressed, Dr. Bhargav. And coming from the
Over to Dr.
clinicians,
Leena.
yeah, so coming from the clinicians' perspective, I think that's really very heartening for people in the laboratory to know that digitization has such a powerful impact on patients. And that's what I think we all are aiming for. Laboratories have always been at the forefront
Am I audible?
of
Yes.
automation. Yeah. So
Dr.
over
Veena,
to
any comments? Dr. Prerna, any comments on that?
Yeah, so I think, yes, I would agree 100% with you. Like we ourselves have used SIGTuple and we are using it for our hematology remote reporting also. Given that, there is this, it creates a health equity and health access for patients. It is very, very important. Similarly, like you just said, it is the key to creating standardization, not only in creating, good reporting for the patient, but also it's a learning tool for pathologists because you get access to the kind of cases for learning which probably you would not have sitting in a remote area. So it is definitely a tool which in our hands as a complementary tool can do wonders. And like you yourself said, and I also, kind of pointed out that AI has to be not only smart, it has to be wise. And that is our job to make it that way. The data sets that we put in, the teaching that we do for the AI algorithms is very, very important to not have bias. At the same time, we will have to have a lot of with the National Digital Health Mission. This is something that we will have to co-create. Even data privacy will become very important. We will have to be mindful of that too. So very well pointed out, Dr. Bhargav. It was
Yeah, I
really
think from the
bang on.
clinician perspective is really very important for all of us. So over to Mr. Amit on his experience with IoT and medical devices. I think that is something which is very interesting for all of us. Amit?
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Leena, and thanks, Elets team, for organizing this summit. And I will try to express some aspects of IoT in medical and diagnostics here. As we understand that the Internet of Things is described as it connects the multiple devices through internet. It connects all those particular devices which are installed in different laboratories and generating data are connected together, and it enhances the capability of analysis. These devices are having sensors, processing ability, software for analysis, which are enabling transmitting or receiving the data. And every device, I understand that every device is having the specific application. And now, if we see that the IoT devices has been evolved in the day-to-day life of the person. Even in household usages like Google Chrome voice controller, like smart refrigerators has come up, like air conditions has come up. It has been entered into the medical and healthcare diagnostic field also. Now, as we see that, yeah. Now, as we see that the IoT devices have been is enabling multiple devices to connect together and enhancing the analysis power. This feature of IoT has been powered by the cloud-based storage devices, cloud-based storages, and it will definitely it is reforming the healthcare. And if I will take some example of how IoT has been utilizing in medical and diagnostic field currently, we can see some examples of the smart watches where medical sensors enabling Wi-Fi enabling Bluetooth enabling connectivity are monitoring the vitals and even capable enough to communicate and raise alarm before getting into any critical state.
Yeah.
This is the power of that IoT devices where we are going to be critical can be alarmed before getting into any kind of such stages. And even those devices are now uh, communicating with the emerging are calling by automating automizing the calls to the emergency numbers to hospitals. And in some examples we have seen that the smartwatch is giving the call to the hospital ambulance to get that particular patient admitted faster, that the if there is any heart rate is going to be abnormal or any other vital need to is going to be abnormal. So that kind of IoT devices are giving us medical advantage where we can do early diagnostics. And as Dr. Bhargav has said, digitization of the slide, IoT is allowing us to automate the manual microscopic review in clinical laboratories, where the person who is digitizing the manual slide into digital format and can uh, and can uh, and that particular slide can be viewed by the expert pathologist from the remote area and can give his best expert advice, and that can give the better diagnosis to the patient which is placed in the rural areas also. In IoT, we see robotic surgery, remote monitoring of the patients, telemedicine, inpatient monitoring. These all things are being evolved with the help of the IoT devices. Even in the
I think,
hearing,
right.
so
So in healthcare, definitely IoT would be coming up in a big way. And as you said, the smartwatches being connected to a host of laboratory tests or patient data and cloud-based computing, all these things would probably add a lot to our not only labs but also for the clinicians to enable and empower the patients as well. It's that's what I would take home from this. From what Ms. Amit said. Yeah. Since we have some time, there are two other questions if any of the panelists would want to take about how training the people on AI or on the futuristic medicine. How do you perceive the future of this training part of it? Because all of us know that we really need to train people on all these devices. How do you foresee the future of this aspect?
So, yeah, Dr. Dina, if I can, start up on this, that I did, share how it provides a data set for training, and especially with, say, an institute like Dr. Lalpath Labs, at least we would have a lot of volume of data and a lot of variety or plethora of cases to teach or train pathologists or the next generation pathologists. However, this access, it can be, we can create subsets of disease scenarios and cases, and they can be leveraged for training for histopathologists, say. That is one use case. It's immense. The other thing is on training on the go. Like, you have training models where even on, when we started, say, testing remotely, and in many other locations, we started our molecular techniques for reporting COVID. We could easily train via digital modes in areas of lockdown also. It was easy to bring training modules on digital platforms to show by step by step how things have to be done to be able to standardize and even validate. So these are some of the points that I have. Yes, Dr. Bhargav, I think you want to.
Dr. Reena, the whole
Yes.
idea is, of course, within the lab you integrate. One becomes the breast cancer specialist, one becomes the prostate, and then you train them with multiple stimulation kind of a thing. One. Second, of course, the training part of it. So we are using digitalization also, which we are scanning these images, also a part of a training to the largest forum, because as we know, there's like 539 medical
Absolutely.
colleges, and the training across is not same. And third
No,
is, of
that
course,
is what I was referring to, that creating those
yes,
subsets of specialty groups, different this thing, and being able to train, because you see the cases are limited at certain locations, and you will, to have that whole plethora available to everybody to be able to visualize. And I remember days in pathology where, you would have those slide boxes, actually just physical slides.
right.
The stains would go off, they would be old slides that, some professors would have kept, and you would go and see them under microscopes to learn. So medicine being a practice where you actually learn from all cases only, it is something that, digitization would kind of provide an immortality to the cases, and it also creates a base where you could, the access is easy. It's even to remote areas
Second
that access can
opinions.
be given.
In a cancer,
Absolutely.
learning about second opinions, and moreover, it is bringing the health equality. Right now, a tier 2 city might be like having a great physicians, great labs, but that simple edge of what we have learned over a period of time, Dr. Prerna and Dr. Reena, by virtue of sitting in a reference lab, we are able to translate it better to the next generation and to the next tier cities, where it actually and truly brings the health equality. Because right diagnosis will lead to a right treatment. Right treatment will reduce the out-of-pocket expenditure, and thus the whole ecosystem becomes much better. At the same time, what we are still finding it difficult, and Dr. Reena and Dr. Prerna can come in, that digitalization also means the backward integration of the processes, which is like right from the quality of the slide. And as the supply chain has said, the thinning of the slide, the thickness of the slide, which has to be uniform in the system so that you get that kind of a same thickness. Then the staining. The staining also has to be equal, because these scanners are trained into different stains, how they monitor these slides, and how do they diagnose them based on the staining itself. Because country like peripheral smear is still on Leishman. You have to move on to red Jimsa stain, which is a technically slightly difficult. So digitalization is actually bringing a lot more change in the milieu, along with bringing the health accessibility to these people, and from a clinician point of view, brings in more people into the ambit of treatment. So I think it's a win-win situation for everybody, across the industry, across the patient network, across the clinician, catching hold of people at the early stage.
Yeah, I totally agree. And the points that you mentioned, on the standardization of technique and also of, the quality of the slides that are required for digitization. I think these are early days. There is a lot that can be done. I think as the models will grow, as the providers of these solutions grow, there will be more flexibility also. But at the same time, it brings in a much needed standardization in technique that is required to be able to, have quality diagnostics.
And Dr. Ina and Dr.
Also, if
Prerna,
I
how
have
do you?
to add,
And
Uh,
if I have
yeah,
to
Dr.
Dr.
add on, yeah, to Dr. Bhagar's point, yes, the automated system has also already improved to understand the integrity of the samples. So regulations and data integrity will be an important features for this to ensure that all the quality and everything is taken, make sure of that. Also, artificial intelligence also come into picture where we put the algorithms like that based on the regulations that is being given to us. Just say if it's like NABL regulations or CAP regulations, whatever, the algorithm is set up like that in the machines that any sample which is going above or below all these algorithms, nothing will be processed. So that is the near future, and the things are moving forward towards that.
right.
uh, can I ask two more questions to the
Yeah.
panelists? Dr. Prerna, Dr. Leena, Dr. Reena, how do you see till 2020, all the pathologists has been trained on a microscope with no digital background. How do you see bringing these, so tens of 15,000 doctors, pathologists, bringing a change into the system of reporting digitally going forward in a decade, one? And second, what is the legal framework various societies, Indian Society of Pathology and Microbiology, are looking at to bring in the legal framework of these digitalization and AI into the ambit of clinical algorithm? Because they can go wrong, they have their own limitations. So what is to be done so as to keep the people sane and not be afraid that if something goes wrong, they will be penalized, but at the same time adopt these technologies in a near future, on a near decade? Because still, when I go with these scanners in rural town, they feel as if I've come from a Mars. They say, ये ऐसा भी हो सकता है, ये slide scan होके दिल्ली से कोई देख सकता है क्या? So this is still a work in progress, I would say. And your thoughts about this?
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I think I'll take that on because, yes, like I said, there is always this huge change management that needs to be done from microscope to screen.
Yeah.
But the benefits, and I think once you start picking up the benefit of this adoption and even the outcome that they see, it will always be, like you initially said, at first a complementary tool, and that is what is important to understand, that it takes away the regular, the tedious tasks which are monotonous, to be able to bring focus onto what it requires to be done. So say I take an example of automated, being a hematologist, you would know the automated hematology analyzers. When they first came in, the question was always like, how can you replace the peripheral smear reporting and the cell counter that we used, that okay, there is a trained eye reading which type of cell is required, and you're replacing it with automated hematology analyzers. But that brought in scale, it brought in cost effectiveness, it saved the time of the pathologist in counting each cell. It gave them a wider number of cells to work on. And I think that's something that if we kind of take an analogy, AI is going to help that way. And that's one of the change that we can
Right.
think of. It's the first step to build AI, and that's digitization, and that's how important that will be. AI, the three important things that we need to definitely ensure when we build AI algorithms. One is high quality data that is needed to create the effective AI tools. The second is limitations and bias in data to be quickly pointed out. This can only be done with the expertise of, who are building the algorithm, to be able to make it transparent so that, you can quickly validate, you can standardize the AI algorithms, use them over a large data set, and data volume becomes very important to build a strong AI algorithm. So large quantities of data would be required for that. And of course, all this comes with a cost. The cost of digitization, and that can only be offset when you scale it up with AI and kind of build more solutions on digitized platforms so that they can leverage that. Otherwise, the initial hesitation is the cost on investment, not only of the infra that is required, but also the cloud storage that is required for data.
So
So
I would like to add here about this, digital information security, what Dr. Bhargav was asking. So there is this proposed Digital Information Security in Healthcare Act. So that is
right.
called DISA, yeah, as a part of the digital intermission. So that sort of provides privacy, confidentiality, security, and all these issues which should be covered in medical science also. I think, yeah. So that's something which should be coming and which will add a lot of value to our AI, the cloud, the data, and all this. So, yeah, any other questions? Because we are almost nearing the end of the session, and I think all of us
Just a
are
closing
very
remark.
excited.
Few
Yeah,
points I would like to come. In general, everybody in the system, be the doctors, the pathologists, the technicians, or the backend support people like us, the mindset of the people needs to change. That we need to adapt towards a new technology which is coming in, and remove the fear that human dependency will go away. It will never go. Now, that's a big challenge which we have.
yeah,
Everybody has a feeling that, sorry to say, including a lot of pathologists, have that feeling that they will become redundant once the
No,
artificial
no,
intelligence
no.
starts working. It will never happen, doctor. I'm
Never.
very clear. It will never
Very clear.
happen. It is very clear it will never happen. Even when the Cellavision team came to meet us, there were discussions internally. What happens tomorrow? Then I don't need a doctor there. A technician can
No,
just load
no,
the slide and I can see. It's not going to be that way.
no.
Still, it is going to be still a human dependent system, and it will always remain the same. One more point. You're all from the pathology side. We, as an organization, are a radiology major company. So today we have brought in our intelligence, into the radiology system also, where we do remote reporting, a CT case, an MR case. Of course, ultrasound we have still not been able to do that. But the CT and MR are being reported remotely by doctors. The major advantage being, we may not be able to get senior doctors, experienced doctors at all our centers. So the expertise of the senior person remotely reporting is an advantage. As you were mentioning, a small tier 3 market may not have an experienced pathologist to report the
yeah.
slide. So those
So
kind of things, we are bringing it into radiology also.
right. So I think we are nearing the end of the session, and we have had a lot of interesting insights, and this is something which probably we would be interested in taking forward also. So thanks to the Elets team to get these such interesting topics, and look at the future of diagnostics. The take home is, let's look into a future where diagnostics is leading the way in digitization and coming up with cost effective solutions for the patients and for the healthcare professionals. And that's the way forward. And it has been so nice being a part of this session with
Thank
such
you.
interesting insights. I'm sure the next topic would be already finalized by the Elets team on this particular subject. So, having said that, I would thank all the panelists for their time and lot of experience, and look forward to a next session on this. And thanks so much for all your comments.
Thank you, Dr. Lina.
Thank you, Dr. Lina. Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Wonderful to interact with all you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Same here. It has been really interesting. Thank you so much.
Bye,
Thank
guys.
you. Thank
Bye.
you so much, Dr. Leena, for
Thank
your
you.
wonderful moderation. And thank you to all the panelists for their time and presence. We would like to inform our esteemed gathering about our upcoming events, which are the 4th Farmer Leadership Summit on the 26th and 27th of April, the 3rd Radiology and Imaging Summit on the 26th and 27th of May, and Medical Education Summit on the 23rd and 24th of June. We look forward to your constant support in future. I
Sure.
once again extend my warm gratitude to all our esteemed panelists for joining in the session. Please accept a small token of gratitude from our end through these certificates that we present to Dr. Leena for her wonderful moderation. Thank you so much, ma'am.
Thank you.
Dr. Reena Natra for sharing her views. Thank you, ma'am. Dr. Rahul Bhargav for his insightful views on the topic. Thank you so much. Dr. Prerna Agarwal for her keen points. Thank you so much, ma'am. Suresh Krishnan, thank you so much, sir, for your views on the session. Thank you. And Dr. Amit Agrawal, thank you so much, sir, for your views. Thank you, everyone. It was great listening to all of you.